Okay, hi everyone. So this video is going to be a little bit different. So this video I will be showing you my vinyl collection, and I mean, as most of my subscribers would know, I am a K-pop collection channel. I talk about my vinyl collection very rarely, but I figured this would be a good time to show it in full, just because first of all I have the time to film it, second of all it's something I'm interested in and just want to show. So whether my subscribers enjoy this or not, I hope at least somebody will. But with that said, I'm gonna get started because I kind of have a lot to go through. I'm gonna go in the order that they are on my shelf just to make it easier on myself, but I am going to try to make this as quick as possible. So yeah, with that said, I'll get started. So I will be going by artist here, so even though they're not in any particular order, I'll be going through one band, group, artists, discography at a time. So first one I have is Crown the Empire. This is their first EP, Limitless. This was pressed a long time ago. I knew I needed it, like I just knew I had to get it just because it is one of those things that I never thought I'd see pressed, and I love this album so much, so I figured I had to get this one. And then we have their first album, The Fallout. This is the only pressing of this I've ever seen. I don't think it's ever been repressed since its initial press. And the color on this one is really cool. I really like this one a lot, so I'm glad I could get my hands on it. I bought this a really long time ago, so I was lucky in that I didn't have to like search for it online or anything. The next one I have is their second album, The Resistance, Rise of the Runaways. This is one that I got through pre-order. I think there was a few initial presses, but I think this one is my favorite. It's like really pretty colored. So then I have their third album, Retrograde, and yeah, this one of course I did get with pre-order too. Crown the Empire, I didn't mention this, but they are my favorite band. They've been my favorite band for like 7 years now. It's 2020. I'm 20 years old. I started liking them when I was like 13, so yeah, it's been a wild ride, but this one is on a really fun pressing as well. I actually have another copy of this just because I was weirdly given it for free when I bought a different vinyl from a different band, but it was like the same record company. I don't know, it was weird. I got it for free, so I decided I'd keep it, but it is on a different pressing, so that's like mostly why I decided to keep it. But so then I do have another 2 copies of their most recent album, Sudden Sky, and I have 2 copies because there was 2 different pressings. There was one that was like Rock Sound exclusive, so that's like a UK magazine, so I bought that just because I can. I don't know, but that was the entirety of my Crown the Empire record collection. I have all of their different albums on vinyl, and just as a note at the end, I guess, this album of theirs is probably my favorite, The Fallout. It's kind of a classic, but also my favorite song of theirs is Two's Too Many. I'm still trying to bug them to play it live, but they won't do it. So next is the biggest collection I have for one single band, and that is Dance Gavin Dance. So I have every single one of their albums on vinyl, but this is their first one, Whatever I Say Is Royal Ocean. I love this album a lot, weirdly, even though I know a lot of people don't, or at least they don't think it's their best, which I can agree with that, but I still like it a lot. This one is on white vinyl, which I have to say is my least favorite color when it comes to pressings. I'm going to talk about favorite songs on the album now just because I feel like I should. My favorite song on this is The Importance of Cocaine, and I think Burning Down the Nicotine Armoire is number 2. So next I have their first album, Downtown Battle Mountain. This one is on, I believe it's blue vinyl. It's super pretty actually, and I like it a lot. This album is one of my favorites of theirs, and I go back and listen to it a lot. But my favorite song on this album is Open Your Eyes and Look North by far. I have to admit, Johnny Craig era Dance Gavin Dance is like my favorite. So my next one is their self-titled album, or Death Star, whichever you'd like to call it. But this album, it's one of my least favorites. I don't really like this era for Dance Gavin Dance, although I still like this album a lot. So I think People You Know is my favorite on this album, but overall this album does like have some good songs and stuff like that. But so next is their Happiness album, and this is actually my least favorite album of theirs. I don't know what it is about it, but I'm just not super into it, so I don't really even have like a favorite song on this album. Yeah, I don't know, but I did buy this back when it was repressed. I think it was the first repress after they did the whole box set thing. Any people that actually collect Dance Gavin Dance vinyl will know what I'm talking about, but this is a pretty old one. I got my hands on this pretty easily since this is usually pretty hard to get your hands on, or at least it was. But yeah, this is also on like a green vinyl, so yeah, I think this is my least favorite album, and coincidentally got the ugliest like pressing color too, but you know, So the next album is their Downtown Battle Mountain 2, and I love this album so much. Something about Johnny Craig being back is just, it's so great. There's so many songs on this album. I don't know if I can pick a favorite, but I think if I had to, it would be Elder Goose. But overall, this album is so great. Alright, next we have their album Acceptance Speech, which this is, again, a new era for Dance Gavin Dance, with Tillian Pearson being their vocalist now. So this is actually the first album I ever listened to of theirs. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's hard to choose a favorite when it comes to Dance Gavin Dance, but this whole album is so good. That's the thing about Dance Gavin Dance's discography, is that the whole thing is just so good. It's really hard to choose favorites. But I would say Doom and Gloom is one of my favorites, and so is Death of the Robot with Human Hair. I think that's it. But yeah. So the next one I have is their second album with Tillian, Instant Gratification. And again, this is just one of my favorites. Like, every single Tillian era album is just so good. It's really hard to choose any favorite songs or anything, but this one folds open so you can see like the entire album art. I know you can't see the entire thing. I think my favorite song on this is Legend. I think Shark Dad is also a great one. So is Awkward. I don't know. This whole album is so good. It's so hard to choose. So the next one that I have is their live album, Tree City Sessions. And this is probably one of the, I think it's the most recent, or at least, yeah, it's one of the most recent additions to my collection, just because this was really low priority, just because, again, it's like not really anything new. But I did want to get this just because, you know, it is a part of their discography. But I really like the fact that they put this out. This one does have two, it's like double disc, I guess, and they're both just black, so they're nothing really that special. But I got this one when their record company, Rise Records, decided to finally stop being annoying and just release their albums on black vinyl and make it like a continuous run. So yeah, that's kind of why I got that. I think they were also having a sale. So the next one I have is Mothership, of course. I love this album too. This one is just really, really good. I think my favorite song on this album is definitely Chocolate Jackalope. There's something about that one that just, it's so good. But really every song on this album is so good. I love this album so much. So then we have their ninth album, Artificial Selection. This is also their most recent full album release, and this is one that I actually went out and bought on release date. I don't think I pre-ordered it at all, so that was actually kind of weird because I'm one of those people that has to like pre-order stuff. But this album is also really great too. I think Evaporate is my favorite. I love that song. Also Son of Robot is really good too. But yeah, so that was everything I have for their full albums. I do actually have their most recent album that's coming out within the next few weeks, actually. I have that pre-ordered. So I still have a few more Dance Gavin Dance things to show, but they are 7 inches. So the first one I have is their People You Knew and Perfect single. So this is actually from the ColourPop edition. The ColourPop edition was actually when they did a pressing of their entire discography all in this kind of black and white. So the cover of it was black and white. The record itself was a color from the album art. And then I have their Summertime Gladness and Pussy Vultures single. This is also the ColourPop edition, just because I didn't get around to getting this one until it was too late, I guess. I'd rather not have these ColourPop editions just because the pressing overall is just not great, but this was really my only option. But yeah, I'm still, I guess, happy to have it regardless. And then I have their Headhunter single. So I did get around to actually getting this one right around its release date. So yeah, and I actually really like the pressing for this one. It's one of my favorites that I have. And then I also have their Blood Wolf single. So yeah, you can see that they go together. That's like my favorite thing. But yeah, I got this one around time of release too. That was actually everything that I had for Dance Gavin Dance. I have everything in their discography. So next is what I would kind of consider, well, it is what I considered my Johnny Craig collection for a long time. I feel like I should say this for various reasons. I don't really plan on supporting him and his music in the future, but I did for a long time when I was younger just because his music helped me a lot, especially through high school and stuff like that. So that's when most of this was bought. So yeah, and I still can't deny that this music is really good. So the first thing I have here is Emarosa. So this is their first album. I think it's their first full album, Relativity. It's their first album with Johnny Craig. This is actually the 10-year edition of it. It's like a special 10-year. You can see it says it on the back, 10-year anniversary edition. So yeah, this was obviously put out more recently. I think the cover is absolutely the ugliest thing in the world, but thankfully it has like the normal cover art inside, which I didn't know when I was buying it. I just kind of bought it for collection purposes. at first. I love this album, so I'm glad to have it. My favorite song on this album is probably like, I've always generally really liked the I Still Feel Her series. So next we have, this is actually their first album and second album like bundled into one. So it's Relativity and their self-titled, and yeah, so there's just, this was the first ever pressing of this. Well, not this one specifically, but since I already talked about Relativity, I'll talk about their self-titled. Their self-titled album is actually one of my favorite albums of all time. So it's really hard to choose a favorite, but A Toast to the Future Kids is really a classic. And I think Live It, Love It, Lust It is a good one too. Again, I Still Feel Her, Part 4, that's kind of like an obvious one. So next we actually have Emarosa's first album without Johnny Craig, and this is Verses. I bought this for an unknown reason. Yeah, I do actually think I have a favorite on this album though. I like Gold Dust a lot. So then next we have a classic, Isles and Glaciers, and this is the remixes of The Hearts of Lonely People. This album is such a classic, and it got re-released as a remix album in like 2014 or 2013 or something like that. It's definitely hard to pick a favorite from this album, but Cemetery Weather is my favorite by far. I definitely really like the version on this remix album because first of all, it's shorter, but it also is just like a piano version, so it's just really, really pretty. So then next we have Johnny Craig's A Dream is a Question You Don't Know How to Answer. I'm just gonna go through this one quickly. I do actually like this album a lot. My favorites include 7 a.m., 2 Bottles and The Wrong Road, and The Garbage Pail Kid Gangbang. Those are two of my favorites, and of course, Children of Divorce is a good one. But yeah, that's that for this album. So next is Johnny Craig's Find What You Love and Let It Kill You. This was actually one of my favorite records that I had for a while just because the pressing that I had for it was pretty limited. I got one of the more limited pressings, and also besides the fact that I really loved this album, it also had some extra songs on it. So it has Cry Me a River and Rehab, which are both covers, and also Ground Pound Sex Slave from the Future. I really loved this album back in the day. I have to admit it's been a while since I've listened to it, but I Still Feel Her Part 5 was one of my favorite songs when I was younger. So I still think that this record, this pressing, is one of the prettiest ones that I have. So then next, this is the last one I have that is considered part of my Johnny Craig collection. So this is Slave's album, Through Art We Are All Equal. Again, this is an album I really love. There's something about Johnny Craig where I feel so conflicted. If you don't know anything about who he is or what he's done, I encourage you to go look it up and just look into it, just because it's far more than I could explain right now. But in short, he's not a great person, but when I was younger, I loved him to death. But I mean, this album, it is still good. I can't deny how good his music has been over the years, just because this album was so good. Starving for Friends is a great one. There's Only One God. I actually prefer the version that is on their next album. It's more of an acoustic version, but I still like that song a lot. The Young and Beyond Reckless is really good too. The Upgrade Part 2 is really good too. So that was actually what I consider the main part of my collection. Now we move past that into other stuff. So when it comes to other albums of other bands and groups and stuff like that, I buy what I like. And it has to be something I really like, just because, you know, vinyl is kind of expensive, and I do have other hobbies that I spend more or most of my extra money on. So this next band is one I consider my favorite. So this is Bring Me the Horizon, Suicide Season. This is actually one of my favorite albums of all time. I love this album. Kind of wish it was still 2008, but this is actually a really cool pressing. It's on red. Here's the inside of it. But it's on red, and I love this album to death. My favorite song on this album by far is Sleep With One Eye Open. I love that song so much, but actually the last time I saw Bring Me the Horizon, it was last year in 2019. They actually played Diamonds Aren't Forever for their first time in like 5-ish years, and I actually lost my mind. That was one of my favorite things ever. And then we have their next album, There's a Hell. This one, I really like the artwork on it and stuff like that, but the pressing on this one, I think the vinyl themselves are just like translucent clear type, but yeah. My favorite song on this album, there's a lot of good ones, but Alligator Blood is one of my favorites, and I also like Don't Go a lot. Crucify Me is a good one, It Never Ends, Anthem, and I also actually really like, well, Blessed with the Curse is good too, but I really like Memorial too. There's something about instrumental tracks sometimes that just, they get me. And then we have their album Sempiternal. This is one of their most iconic albums, of course. But actually this is one of like the first pressings of it. I definitely pre-ordered this album, so yeah, it was like one of the first few pressings. It's gold, I believe. But yeah, this album is really good. It's actually been a while since I've listened to it, but this whole album is really good. So next I have that's the Spirit album, and I don't believe there's anything special about this one. I believe it's just black, but this one, the artwork is really cool. And I think my favorite song on this one is Doomed. Follow You is a good one. Avalanche is a good one. Oh No is a good one too. This whole album is just so good. It definitely doesn't feel like it came out 5 years ago, but it did. And then, of course, their most recent album, Ammo. I actually really love the packaging on this one, because even though like the record itself doesn't have like a really cool pressing to it, it's just, I mean, like they were creative with the packaging, I think. So I'm glad I have this one. It's also hard to choose a favorite on this one, but I think Wonderful Life is a good one. Sugar, Honey, Ice, and Tea is a good one. Yeah, Mother Tongue is a good one. This isn't my favorite Bring Me the Horizon album by far, but it's still good. So moving on, next we have Issues. This is their Black Diamonds EP. This is actually first press of this album, so it's a bit harder to find, but I really do like the pressing that this is. I got this one a really long time ago, but I think my favorite song on this album is King of Amarillo. There's something about that song that is just a classic. Her monologue is also really good though. I think that's one of my favorites. Plus, The Worst of Them is really good too. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I love Sex Riot, because I actually do not like Franz. He ruins everything he touches, but yeah, that was this album. So next we have Issues' first album. This is their self-titled album. I love this album so much, but it's the only Issues album I really like. Everything after this is just not good, or at least I don't know, maybe I just haven't given it a chance, but it's just like not my thing. And definitely their most recent album is not my thing, but I'm sure this is on a pretty cool pressing. But this album, definitely one of my favorites of all time. Every song on this album, Sad Ghost, Mad at Myself, Life of a Nine, all so good. The Langdon House is one of my favorites. Late, so good. Stingray Affliction, really good. I think Personality Cult is another one of my favorites, just because of that whole meaning. It's really hard to choose a favorite, just because this is one of the albums where I will absolutely listen to it all the way through, all the time. Like, I get so hyped listening to this album. I also especially really remember release time of this era, because I actually saw them the day this album came out. They were on the American Dream Tour with Of Mice and Men and Bring Me the Horizon, so yeah, that was back in 2014. It feels like forever ago, but it was 6 years ago. So the next thing I have of theirs is their Diamond Dreams acoustic album, and yeah, there's not really much to say about this other than their acoustic songs are really good, just because Tyler Carter is great. Also, Tears on the Runway is a really good song. I should have mentioned that, but that's one of my favorites, especially the acoustic version. It's really good. Okay, so next I have Fall Out Boy's From Under the Cork Tree. And this pressing itself is actually one that came from a box set that they did. It was more recent. The box set came out within the past year or two. But this is actually my sister bought the box set, and she already had a copy of this, so she gave this one to me. But I actually myself feel kind of anxiety about the box set not being complete, so I actually want to try to get my own copy of this and then give this back to her. I don't know, it's weird, but yeah, I don't know. I still love this album anyways. Something about Fall Out Boy's old music, it definitely hits different. This album in particular, it actually has the remixes on it, and it has like the songs that were on the like deluxe version of the album. Yeah, my favorite song on this album is I've Got a Dark Alley, track number 6. 7 Minutes in Heaven is good too. I don't know, this is definitely one of my favorites. So then next we have Infinity on High by Fall Out Boy. This is by far my favorite Fall Out Boy album. I would say it's hard to choose, but this one is definitely my favorite. This one is actually on a really cool pressing. This was Hot Topic exclusive, and I did get this when it came out. This is one of my favorite vinyl that I have, because the pressing is just so cool. Also, it being one of my favorite albums makes it cool too. But like I said, this is one of my favorite albums by them. My favorite song, track number 4 is one of my favorites. The Afterlife, The Party, The Carpal Tunnel of Love, and I Got All the Ringing in My Ears and None on My Fingers. That's actually that's one of my favorite songs ever. This one also has the bonus tracks, which I did not realize until right now. So lastly, for Fall Out Boy, I have their Save Rock and Roll album. I pre-ordered this back when it was first announced. I like this album a lot. It's not my favorite, but I think it's really good, especially considering it's like, I don't know, like post hiatus, I guess. I'm not a Fall Out Boy fan when it comes to their new music. Like, I'm just not. But I think this album is really good. Definitely one of their best, more recent albums. My favorite songs on this album are Where Did the Party Go and Just One Yesterday. Alone Together is really good too. I get really nostalgic feelings when it comes to this album, because I went to see them on their first tour back after their hiatus. I went to the first show on that tour, and I just listened to this album a lot around that time, so this album makes me feel things for sure. So next, moving on from Fall Out Boy, we have Panic at the Disco, of course. This is a collection I'm still kind of working on. I do not have A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, but I'm working on getting that one. Probably not soon, but eventually. But I got Pretty Odd just because it was at a local record store. This is actually a recent purchase, but it was at a local record store and I had the money, so I bought it. But Pretty Odd is one of my favorite, I think it is my favorite Panic at the Disco album. It's really hard to choose just because of the ones that I like them a lot. My favorite on this album, it's hard to choose like I said, but The Green Gentleman is a good one. Northern Downpour is definitely a fave. She Had the World. The Piano Knows Something I Don't. Just this album is so good. But and then next we have their Vices and Virtues album. Again, this is a more recent purchase. I was at that same local record store. I had to choose between Vices and Virtues and A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. I chose Vices and Virtues because I have more of an emotional attachment to this one. A Fever You Can't Sweat Out I love just because of the pure nostalgia and greatness of the album, but this one I have a lot more memories with, and I love this one a lot, so I bought this one instead, so that's why I don't have A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. But yeah, I'm really glad to have this one now just because I figured this one would be a bit harder to get, but I don't know, I guess I was kind of wrong. I didn't realize that there was just records floating around in record stores, but yeah, I'm glad to have this one. And then next we have Too Weird to Live, Too Weird to Die. This is the last Panic record I own. It is the last one I like, but this album is also really great too. There's nothing special about this pressing. I wish I could have gotten the more limited one, but I did not get to that one quick enough. This album is really great. I actually saw them around the time that this came out. Okay, this came out in 2013. I saw them in September of 2013. I don't know when this album came out, but I saw them around that time. That was the last time I saw them. Yeah, but anyways, this album is really good. The whole thing, start to finish. Vegas Lights is one of my favorites. Girls, Girls, Boys, of course. The End of All Things is a great song too. I don't hear people talk about that one very much, but that one is so good. So then moving on, we have Sleeping with Sirens. Sleeping with Sirens used to be one of my favorite bands. So I'm not going to judge myself here because I actually do want to get their first album on vinyl somehow. I love this album. I think I like it even more than their first, so I think it's my favorite basically. But this is also first press. I think the pressing of it is actually really ugly, but that's besides the point. But yeah, I love this album. Postcards and Polaroids is Sleeping with Sirens' best song, and nobody can tell me otherwise. That's just how it is. A Trophy Father's Trophy Son is really good too. Whole album is really good. And then we have their beloved If You Were a Movie, This Would Be Your Soundtrack acoustic album. Not much to say about this one, but it is a really great album. This is on orange vinyl, so I mean it's pretty fun. And then we have Feel. So this is one that I just kind of took from my sister because she said she didn't want it anymore, so that's why I have it. I actually don't hate this album. I feel like a lot of people didn't like it, don't like it. I don't know. I like this album for what it is. I actually pre-ordered this album back in the day, but I didn't get the vinyl. I have the CD, but I liked this album a lot back in the day, so I think this is also on red vinyl, so it is pretty cool. But I actually think Free Now is one of the best songs on this album. It's one of Sleeping with Sirens' best songs overall, so. But I can definitely understand why people don't like this album. It has some weird features that I don't like, but I don't know. So then next we have Pierce the Veils of Flair for the Dramatic, and actually I wanted to get rid of my Pierce the Veil vinyl that I have just because I don't listen to Pierce the Veil anymore just because of certain reasons that I won't go into, but I think this is on some cool pressing. I don't know exactly what it is, but this album even back then wasn't really one of my favorites, but I don't know why I really got this or why I still have it. But so then we have Selfish Machines. This one is probably on a cool pressing too. I don't know exactly what it is. It's definitely been a while since I've looked at these, but my favorite, this album is actually one that I really like. So Southern Constellations is good. Paraphernalia, that's hard to say. Fast Times at Claremont High. The new national anthem is definitely, I think, my favorite song on this album. Disasterology, of course. I Don't Care If You're Contagious. Stay Away From My Friends. Bulletproof Love. Everything. It's good. It's definitely good. Yeah, I feel a certain type of way about Pierce the Veil these days, but yeah. And then we have the masterpiece that is Collide with the Sky. This album, changed my life, weirdly. I think this one is on a cool pressing too. I don't know. Like I said, it's been a while since I looked at these, but this album is really, really good. Definitely a little too emo for me to listen to very often, but overall, I like this album a lot. King for a Day is iconic. I'm Low on Gas and You Need a Jacket is good. I don't know, the whole thing. just really good. But yeah, so that was what I had for Pierce the Veil. Alright, so the next one I have is Selena Gomez's Rare album. This is actually my most recent record to come in. I bought this with a signed thing, so that's why I bought this really. But I still do like this album. I really want to get her Revival album as well, but otherwise, yeah, that's all I have for Selena Gomez. So then we have I See Stars, New Demons. I love this album a lot. I still listen to this one to this day, but I believe this is on like a black and white splatter type deal. But yeah, I See Stars used to be one of my favorite bands. I really wish that I could get their older albums on vinyl, like Digital, Renegade, 3D, and their second album. I can't remember what it's called, but I really love their first 4 albums so much. Anything past New Demons I'm not into, but regardless, like that's a collection I wish I could have. I don't think it'll ever happen, but I wish. And then we have the Amity Afflictions, Let the Ocean Take Me. This is the only Amity album that I have. I really want to get Chasing Ghosts. I love this album a lot. I believe this one is on blue vinyl, but yeah, this album is really, really good. Just like the whole thing. Give It All is my favorite. It has been since the album first came out, but I think seeing the song live back in the day, like, sealed the deal. I love that song so much. Lost and Fading is really good. When Pittsburgh first came out, I cried for like a week about it. I don't know. I used to love this band a lot. I don't feel the same way these days, not because they're bad or anything, but it's just because my music tastes have changed, I guess. But yeah, I love this album. So then next we have a classic, Cute Is What We Aim For, the Same Old Blood Rush with the New Touch. This one is actually on a really fun pressing. I think it was a Hot Topic exclusive, if I'm remembering correctly. I did buy this a while ago, so it's a little hard to remember, but yeah. But I'm so glad that I have this because I love this album, first of all. This is like an album where I'm just like still like super... I was quite young back then, I will admit, into it. Even though this came out in 2006. Yeah, I love this album so much. I actually just recently bought the CD for this album, so... But like, The Curse of Curves, what a classic. That's like the best song ever. Really. But yeah, like this whole album is so good. I love this album. This is like one of the albums I'm still super hyped to have, like, if anything. Like, I really love all of the albums that I have in my vinyl collection, but this one I'm still so hype about. So next we have Breathe Carolina, Hello Fascination. I love this album so much, and I've actually had this for a while, but this is a really great album. Breathe Carolina is another kind of vinyl collection I wish I could fill in a little bit. Yeah, I also want to get Savages on vinyl. I went through a really big Breathe Carolina phase when I was like 14, 15. So next we actually have Breathe Carolina's most recent album. This is Dead the album. Like I said, it's their most recent album. It just came out last year. I was really hype about this album release because it's been so long since they actually released a for real album. But this was actually a limited edition. It was quite limited, I think. And as you can see, like, the original album art is black, this one is white. The pressing is super cool. I was super in love with it, so of course I had to get it. Next we have Never Shout Never Harmony. I really wish that I could fill in my Never Shout Never collection more because I love Never Shout Never. Yeah, but this album is one of my favorites, so I'm glad I could have this one. I have to say, out of their full albums, this is probably my favorite one, so it's hard to choose a favorite on this one. So next we have Man Overboard, Heart Attack. This is one of my favorite albums. Like, I love this album so much. Front to back, this whole thing is really good. I mean, it's held onto that title for a long time. I love this album. I've actually seen Man Overboard like a lot of times without even realizing it, but anyways, I love this album. And next we have Man Overboard's Before We Met. This is actually on a really cool pressing. I love this one a lot. This is one that I actually got when I saw them live. It's when they opened for All Time Low on a Love Like tour. I think that's what it's called. I got this one at a show, so I actually think this is one of the most high quality ones that I own too. So then next we have Balancing Composure, The Things We Think We're Missing. I love this album so much. I think the pressing of this one is actually really cool too, but again, this is one of like the most high quality ones that I have, and I love this one. This is a really great album. And we have State Champs, The Finer Things. This is one of my favorite pop punk albums from back in the day. I think this album is really gold. I really used to love State Champs so much, but I don't listen to them so much anymore, but I still think this album is really good. And then we have The Story So Far, Which You Don't See. I love this album. It's really hard to say anything other than I love this album. It's been a really long time since I've been into The Story So Far, but I still think this album really holds up, and I love this one. So then we have All Time Low. This is the only All Time Low record I own, even though I was actually really into All Time Low. If I get the chance, I'd love to kind of fill in this collection a little bit from like their early days, but Dirty Work is actually a really good album. I don't understand why people don't like it, but yeah, I think this is on red vinyl. I don't really have much to say about this album, but I do like it. And then we have The Main with American Candy, and I think this is on a really cool pressing too. I really love this album a lot, so I'm really glad I have this on vinyl. It's one of my favorite albums from the Maine, but I don't actually have a lot of my favorites from the Maine. I'd like to go back and get their older albums for sure. I don't know if they exist, but definitely Can't Stop Won't Stop is one that I want on vinyl for sure. I think that does exist. It's just a matter of how I can get my hands on it. But yeah, I love this album. So next we have Chase Atlantic's Phases, and Chase Atlantic, I love Chase Atlantic. I've been following those boys for a really, really long time. So it's been probably around 8 years at this point. But yeah, I'm really glad I have this. I'm really glad that Chase Atlantic is a thing. But this isn't my favorite album. I really like their first album a lot more. So I kind of hope that can get pressed at some point. If it doesn't, then I guess that's okay. But yeah. So next we have Ed Sheeran's Plus. So I'm not an Ed Sheeran fan, but I used to be. I still think this album is really good. I think this is the only really good album he released. Anything after this album is just not great. But yeah, I'm at least happy to have this one. I think this might be on orange. It's either on orange or it is black. I don't remember which it is, but and then we have Paris's White Noise, and this album is actually really good, one of my favorites. I think this is on a really cool black and white half kind of pressing. This is actually a really good album. I think I already said that, but I definitely feel like this is underappreciated by me, and I don't listen to it very much anymore. I don't listen to Paris anymore, but I feel like I should. And then we have A Day to Remember, Homesick. This is a really good album. I don't really have much to say about this one. It's just kind of a classic. So then next we have Echo Smith. This is Acoustic Dreams. It's an acoustic album, obviously. This is a Record Store Day release a while ago, so I bought it. I used to really love Echo Smith. I know they just recently put out an album, but I haven't listened to it yet. I want to, but like I said, I really used to like them. So then we have Amy Winehouse, Back to Black, which this is like a classic, so I kind of have to have this. I do love Amy Winehouse, though. I think this album is really good. So then lastly, we have two of my favorites. We have One Direction's 4 album, and I'm super glad that I have this. I love One Direction, and I miss One Direction. I want to get their 5th album, Made in the AM, but I just haven't gotten the chance to get that yet. And then lastly, I have Harry Styles, Fine Line. This is actually something I got for Christmas this past Christmas, but I did get the Target exclusive edition. It's the black and white cool variant, so yeah, I actually really love Fine Line. I'm hopefully praying his tour doesn't get canceled or postponed. I'm seeing him in July, so yes, I'm really excited about that. But okay, so I'm editing this in at the end because I realized there was a few things I forgot to show. One of them is this One Direction Midnight Memories 7-inch picture disc. It just has Midnight Memories and a live version of Rock Me on it. Then I also have this Bring Me the Horizon picture disc. This is a live thing as well. It has live versions of Drown and Throne on it. This was a Record Store Day release, I believe. And then the last two I have to show are these NCT 127 and Super M picture discs. So these are the only two like K-pop related vinyl that I have. And this Super M one is actually like one of my favorite like picture discs that I own, just because the picture they chose for this one is like impeccable. But yeah, this one is just the NCT 127's We Are Superhuman album, and then this is just Super M's album. So yeah, that was everything, so we can move on now. So I'll leave you here, but with that said, that was actually everything that I have for my vinyl collection. Every single vinyl that I have is an album that I really love and enjoy. I'm really actually proud of my vinyl collection. It's something that I've been growing since about 2013. It definitely does not grow much anymore, just considering my other hobbies. But yeah, I'm still really proud of it and I love it. Anyways, yeah, that was everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope everyone is staying safe and I hope everyone is staying healthy. But with that said, I will see you in my next video.